Hi everyone, it's Miss Kim. It's Monday, January 18th. So we're going to start with the calendar. So the last time we did the calendar was on Friday, which was the 15th. So we'll take off our Friday and we will put on Monday. It starts with M. It was the 15th. But today is the 18th, so we'll just keep our 1 there. And we'll put on our 8, so we have 18. It is the month of January. I think the weather is still cloudy, and our season is still winter. Now, there's a special day today. You might find out that some of the post office, well, all of the post offices are closed, the banks and some businesses, and I know that some of the school districts have off, but the library is open today because we want to celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. And I know some of you may know about Dr. Martin Luther King, or you may kind of have an idea about him. So I have 2 books here. I have a blast off reader that's listed as level 4, which you can find it in our biography section. And I have an AV2 book. Now, what's really neat about the AV2s is sometimes they include videos or links to videos. And this one does, but I'm going to read it. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And you can see here is the code if you would check this out. And you can find it in our space room. Martin Luther King Jr. Day is celebrated on the 3rd Monday in January. It is a day to remember Martin Luther King Jr. and honor his teachings. Here is a picture of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a pastor and public speaker. He gave important speeches about equality and freedom that moved people. Martin Luther King Jr. spent his life helping people to be treated fairly. And this is something that you may see. You may see pictures of a big speech that he did in Washington, D.C. Now, it was a long time ago, but I'm going to read a little bit about it. In 1963, which is even before Miss Kim was born, not much, but even before I was born, Martin Luther King Jr. gave a famous speech. He spoke about his dream of America. More than 250,000 people came together to hear Martin Luther King Jr. give his speech, I Have a Dream, at the Lincoln Memorial. Martin Luther King Jr. was, sadly, he was shot and killed, which is very, very sad because it was for what he was trying to do for our country. It was 1968. People wanted a national holiday to honor his memory. So in 1983, we have Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And in Washington, D.C., there is a monument to, or memorial, I'd call it a monument, to Martin Luther King Jr. Special events are held all across the United States. Many cities hold large parades. Now, I don't think they would be doing that this year because of the virus that we have right now. But you can see there's lots of people. Martin Luther King Jr. Day is a day to think about how we treat others. It is a day to honor a great leader. Can you think of how you could treat others? I hope you use the word kind, and I hope you use the word care, because that was part of what Dr. Martin Luther King did. Martin Luther King Jr. is remembered in many parts of the country. People visit his childhood home. It's in Alabama, which is far from here, but still able, you could drive there. And a church to learn more about him, because he was a minister, he was a preacher. People in Atlanta, Georgia can visit the house where Martin Luther King Jr. was born. The holiday is a time to help people. It is called a day of service. People think about freedom and peace on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Martin Luther King Jr. was a leader for fair treatment of all people. People honor him by trying to make the world a better place. And these are some facts that tell you a little bit more about him. And one of the things that he did was he wanted to make sure that all people were equal to each other. So in the time when Dr. Martin Luther King was growing up, black and white people could not eat at the same restaurant, or ride the same bus, or go to the same school. So he was chosen to lead a protest where it was called the Civil Rights Movement. And it was to try and bring the country together and to make sure that black people would have the same rights as American people, or white people, not Americans. We're all Americans. There was much violence because people did not believe that black people should have the same rights as white people. But here's another picture of his famous speech, and it inspired people with his wise words and peaceful words. He was awarded a Nobel Peace Prize, recognized for his work for peace. And he spoke for fairness. So when it's called a day of service, what do you think that means? Well, service is something that you do for others. So I know it's hard right now because a lot of the things that we would usually do to help someone, we can't do safely. But you could still, maybe you go to someone's house and you leave them some groceries. Maybe someone that's older. You would put them on their porch. You could write a letter to someone who's in a nursing home or a hospital. You could thank a police officer. You could thank an ambulance driver. So it's called a day of service. And I know that I'm a Girl Scout leader. So I think that helps young people learn to know how to help in their community. I would like to encourage everyone to do something for someone else today and to have a wonderful Monday. Thank you. See you later.